Thanks for joining us for another episode of Already Won, a Sports Friends podcast. Each week, Coach Ben and Coach Kyle share their insights, interview special guests, and offer some extra words of wisdom. The victory is ours, because we've already won.
Hello and welcome to Already Won, a Sports Friends podcast. I'm your host, Ben Wildman, the Wildcat, here with the Mad Dog, Kyle.
Boom, boom, checka boom.
Good to have you here, Mad Dog. You doing okay?
I'm doing well. It's kind of a summer, sports here globally. There's a lot going on. I thought after the NFL, college football, college basketball, well, NBA finals, whatever. We got Euros going on now. England.
Just started. Hey, look, we can talk about England, but I actually want to talk about a different football. This is something that this week we're going to talk about. Is that all right with you, Mad Dog?
We're talking about the Carolina Panthers?
Not talking about the Panthers, but we're talking about a team that plays against the Carolina Panthers. We're talking about today a guy who works for the Houston Texans, right? Are you excited for this, Mad Dog?
I am. This is great. This is a good find. I think it'll be great to hear what Jacob has to say. I mean, it's not just your average superstar. We can get a superstar anytime we want. We got someone on the team who's a nutritionist, someone who knows well-being, hydration, all this stuff.
And he's a guy with a lot of knowledge. I mean, Jacob Mertens is coming in. He's got a bachelor's degree in sports management and exercise science. He's got a master's degree in sports science and coaching. And incredibly, he's had 3 different promotions within the Houston Texans. So he's someone who has a lot of insight around a high-performance environment. And we're looking forward to diving at different things. And he's actually, like you said, Carl, he's someone who's had experience with strength and conditioning. He's had experience with performance, wellness and enhancement, different nutrition stuff, food service management. There's a load of stuff here that we're going to dive into because I want to extract some of this gold. I'm about the golden nuggets, but those golden nuggets are not from McDonald's. They're going to be golden nuggets from Jacob today, right?
I'm trying to get him to speak on the Wisconsin connections as much as possible. So I'm going to drop a few dimes in there. Just watch.
There you go. Looking forward to that. Looking forward to diving in, right? Without further ado, let's bring in this week's guest. Let's bring in Jacob.
Welcome.
Hey, guys. How are you doing?
Doing great. Thanks. Great. Welcome to the Already Won podcast, Jacob. Thank you so much for your time. Kyle is going to ask you some quick fire questions for us to get a little bit familiar with you. So over to you, Mad Dog.
All right. So there's only one correct answer, is whatever comes out of your mouth. So, don't stress, there's just rapid fire. All right. Cereal or oatmeal?
Oatmeal. I have it every day.
Spice or no spice?
Spice.
Ketchup or mustard?
Ketchup.
There we go. Tea or coffee?
Oh, 100% coffee.
Yeah, see, there we go. Tacos or sushi?
Ooh. Sushi.
Okay. It's Taco Tuesday, but you don't have to say that. Hot dog or cheese board?
Cheese board.
Okay. All right. That's it. That's all I got, Ben. And do you think he won with the coffee? I mean,
well, I've got a mug of English tea right here, but I won't hold that against you. And I noticed that some of those answers you went for probably arguably the healthier option. Love that. And that is because of your role, I'd imagine, Jacob, which we're going to dive into a lot more. But before we do dive into that, can you tell us around the phrase "already won"? What does that mean to you in your life?
Yeah, that's a great question. When I hear "already won," I kind of anticipate myself kind of going into any type of situation. And for me, when I'm the most confident and I know I can go win that is when I'm prepared. And I've done like the homework, I put in the effort ahead of time. And that actually, it kind of goes into kind of like the phase we're even in with the athletes right now. So we're technically in the off season. So it's putting in that work right now. So by the time you get to the regular season, when it kind of all matters, that the effort has put in to prepare yourself for anything that's going to get thrown at you. So I think that's kind of wrapping it up for me.
And what is your current role now at the Houston Texans?
Yeah, so my title is Assistant Director of Performance Nutrition, but the way we work here is a little bit differently than some of the other sports teams, at least around the NFL. And we're the wellness department. So yeah, I'm a dietitian by trade, also a former strength conditioning coach, but we'll work with guys in a little bit of a broader scope. So you're looking at sleep, obviously like hydration and nutrition are part of that. A big thing that we're on here is routine. So what are we doing day to day when it comes to consistency with the habits that we have, and how can that help you out? So like right now, we just got all of our rookies in the building and they're kind of getting the lay of the land. And so right now it's helping them look at even like the structure of the day, and we'll help them, hey, the best time for you to do your rehab recovery stuff is at this time, and making sure you're getting personal time here or there. So a giant part of what we do is helping guys outline their day so they can maximize their performance. That would be like the largest chunk in that one. Helping out with guys with sleep. We're just kind of looking at our schedule. There's a lot, obviously sports teams all over the world, late night games, turnaround travel, and things like that. So what can we do to help with consistency on that?
We're looking forward to dive into that a lot more. I've heard high performing athletes have taken their pillow, and even people have taken beds on the road, so they can have good quality sleep and things like that. So to get these marginal gains and to get the best rest possible. So we will dive into this a bit more later, but your role now, obviously, you've had 3 promotions, if I'm right, in the organization you're in. Tell us a little bit about the journey. I mean, you've studied different degrees and stuff. You've done a master's. Tell us about how you got to your current role now.
Yeah, so I came to the Texans as an intern and got my way up to an assistant director level with various promotions kind of in between there. So when we got here, there had been a dietitian on staff before, but I don't think the organization had given the resources that we have now to it. So a lot of it was a little bit of a blank slate, and I kind of just came in and looked at, all right, well, if I want to be at the next level, if I want to be not just an intern, but an assistant to a coordinator down the line, like what do those positions do? And I just tried to do them at even like the lower level. So when I was sort of looking at it, as an intern, what does the assistant do? I tried to do roles that something like that might happen. Like I said, our organization was in a little bit of a unique situation where we had a lot of room to grow the program. And so I just started coming out with a lot of different ideas and presenting it to my boss. So it wasn't necessarily things that, hey, can you do X, Y, Z? No, I was coming at him like, well, what about A, B, and C on top of that already? So I definitely kind of overwent a little bit more on that one. But there's things that kind of I just try to hold true to myself, where it's integrity with what I do. So the only things I try to put out are good things, and just trying to listen to myself. And if my heart is not really in it, or I kind of have that feeling from God that it's not the right thing to do, I kind of tell myself no, or I have to go back and relook at it. One of the best compliments I think I've ever gotten in my life, this might come from my boss too. He's like, "You're authentic." And when I go back and I look at that, there's part of me like, what does a dietitian do, or what does someone in my role typically do? And I ask myself like a lot of different questions, or not just copy and paste what I've done in some of my experiences, but it's like learn from it, and how does this fit the current situation, and try to establish my own opinions on things by doing the research onto them, instead of just, hey, I heard this or that, looked at the new headline for something in nutrition, and just try to automatically implement that with the Houston Texans.
So you're off season now, but in season, you've got different stresses and strains, I'm sure, not only just taking care of your own stuff, but you've got the crew to take care of, like CJ Stroud, and I guess Daria Ogunbowale's with the Texans this year. He's a Wisconsin. I'm from Wisconsin, so.
Oh yeah.
Good. And he's also Nigerian. His parents are Nigerian. His sister plays with Dallas. But so, what's it like working in this kind of environment? Off season is probably going to be much different than in season. But what does it look like to working at that level?
Honestly, like even the day, and sometimes like the intensity is almost still feels the same in the off season as it is when you get to the in season. I think that is something that is a big difference when you start talking about people who are professionals at their craft and those who are not. So the ones that have been in the league or around, it's the same thing across the board. If you go look at the players that are in the MLB, NBA, English Premier League, those guys, like they're preparing themselves. So when you went back and you already asked, like they're already won. Like those guys come in with this mentality and they know like I need to be serious for this because I can't just show up once the season starts and be ready. But it's always the serpent mindset on top of it and kind of going into there. So there's always you're kind of, I guess I said earlier, like integrity is a giant part of what I try to hold to myself. So you're still pouring your heart out into it. And I definitely see that across the board with our guys. There's also just a newfound excitement within our organization. So for those of you that aren't familiar with the Houston Texans or don't really know the Houston Texans, like we had a few rough years where we
A few.
had one of the like a lot of head coaches in for 1 year out, so multiple coaching firings. But now it's one of those things where we made the playoffs, we won our division again. We, like you named CJ Stroud, like we have a lot of young talent. And so that one, it's just carrying over to everybody, top to bottom. There's a new excitement about it. And the energy in the building right now is also drastically different than it was a year ago at this point.
I can imagine. And you've been there from the days of being an intern, so you can see, around how things have changed. But I loved how before you spoke about integrity, but you also said in the midst of this high performance environment that you're kind of, as a Christian in there, praying about what the best thing is to do and letting God kind of lead you. We talk about this idea of the greater game. So as in a Christian in this world of sport, you're in an elite environment, a really important role where you're working on all different performance and well-being. And as you mentioned, sleep and diet and all these things. But what does it mean being part of this greater game? What does that look like for you? Give us a few more examples of what that looks like on a day-to-day basis for you being a Christian in that environment.
Yeah. So in my relationship with God, I tried to, and a lot of it just what I do is I try to simplify things. And the daily check-in I always have, and I think this is across all religions too, is I go, do good, feel good, do bad, feel bad. And I always try to have that basis. So I'm like, at the end of the day, am I doing good? Did I do what is best for the athlete? The difference I think here versus a lot of the other teams that has kept me around this organization too is just very athlete centered. And kind of when we do that part, it's very athlete focused. And it's not just necessarily saying like the athlete itself, but it's the person itself. And looking at it in that frame. The people we have around here, like, and you go look at when chapel starts. So a lot of times during season, when dinner's going on, like at the hotel, we have a chapel service going on too. And you should see how dead it gets in our cafe. So we just have an exorbitant amount of just great people around here, Christians who are religious based, and that it carries around into the facility too. And so it also just goes along of just being consistent along with that. And I always had that feeling like God's watching me, God's with me. And just being consistent with that to give the athlete the best that I can day in and day out.
Love that. I mean, athlete focus. I really like that phrase. I mean, that's really important to, think about the player and then bring in your expertise. And I think you look at it, what you've done, you've rose through the ranks by doing that, right? And obviously, you can clearly see that you're in a position now where you influence a lot of people. So there's a lot of people who listen to this who are coaches, that sports friends coaches or involved in sports ministry. I think they'd love to get some tips around this idea of well-being. What does that look like? So you mentioned a few things, sleep, hydration. Let's go through them one at a time. What does it look like, do you think, for you to optimize kind of sports performance? How do you do that? Give us a few practical ways that you do it, and then we'll dive into some of those other topics.
Yeah, so kind of like what I talked about, simplifying it a little bit ago, and I kind of had like my little rule of my religious faith onto it. And it's the same thing there. When you start looking at different aspects of wellness, there's a lot, right? And we're kind of just educating those on some of the rookies coming in. And the expectation is not to master all those right now. So the first thing for us is or one of the first things I should say with us is making guys aware of all those different aspects and how it can influence just their performance. Like they might not have thought about hydration as much because they might be a team and they might be from Wisconsin and the weather down in Houston, Texas is a little bit different, kind of in one of those aspects. They might not have ever thought about sleep or, even in the wellness aspect of it, they might not even thought about, hey, are they taking care of themselves from a personal standpoint? So even when we work through a routine with an athlete and like, hey, where's this personal space for you to connect with your family? It might be the first time, whether it's college or boarding school professional athletes, that you might be moving away from your family. It's like, how are you adapting to that? And realistically, the whole wellness part of it, you have to see the person first and the athlete almost in a way second, because we kind of see it as a foundation that can help feed into athletic performance.
And what about, let's dig into nutrition? Now, there's loads of stuff out there. I mean, the thing that I always think is that the advertisement world is bombarding people with all this stuff, and there's so much information out there these days. We need to get credible sources. So we could talk around, making sure we talk about the right amount of protein you get. And the only thing I can go off is I watch a lot of the All or Nothing NFL documentaries on Amazon, and I've seen how much a lot of these guys eat. Right now, they're eating a lot of good quality stuff, and I love seeing when they go to their homes and they're eating good quality protein and they're trying to balance their diet and stuff. But can you give us any kind of nutrition advice around that? Like, what do you do in your current role, and what would a normal kind of player or coach kind of need for kind of how can they optimize their performance through nutrition?
Yeah, so within my current role, I try to break it down easily for like two things. And the one, if they just eat in a cafe, it's pretty easy to achieve, but it's eat as minimally processed as possible. I think we kind of know if you're just going to go out there and eat Twinkies and candy or junk food, that's not going to be able to fuel the body and help you recover from the intensity that you're going to have to go through in training. And the next is just working guys on various portions. And with that one, it's kind of just going back into listening to your athlete. What do they like to do? I don't have one recommendation that says, hey, you need to eat 6 meals or you need to eat 3 meals. It's getting the athlete to listen to how their body best responds. Because even talking to Ben, to Kyle, I bet my nutritional recommendations, after just sitting down and giving you time to talk and building the plan together instead of just being me spewing stuff to you, we'd probably come up with different strategies, but just based on your preferences, how you like things in there from that. So it's definitely coming from my aspect of this is a unified plan and not necessarily me just telling you exactly what to do. Compliance on that one is a lot more. And that's one of the biggest things of whatever you do coaching wise. If you don't have compliance, then it doesn't necessarily matter. So there's definitely a lot of the psychological part that kind of goes along within that coaching that I feel like was not quite there in all my education, but definitely something you kind of learn as you're going down this path. So those are the simplest ways to kind of be able to do that one there. For other coaches out there, it's just taking a step back and just looking at your unique situation. So I went to a very small NAIA school and played football. Obviously, the resources that we have here are drastically different. So one of the things that the biggest struggle is probably just finding enough food for your athletes necessarily to eat. And we'll do weight tracking. I know it's a simple metric, but it's pretty easy to say if you weigh a guy once or twice a week and they're staying pretty average, that the likelihood that they're getting enough fuel into their body to be able to go from there. There's basic, even just wellness questionnaires you can ask to kind of just help with that. And that can influence your nutrition as well. So from like, how's your sleep to do you feel like you're recovered or not? Those can help dictate some of the changes that you might do later on.
Kyle and I have been joking around before around what's the average kind of calories that, NFL players will eat. And what you just kind of answered it by saying it's actually a personal approach. You talk about being that, athlete centered. It's not just a one size fits all. It's what works in their lifestyle, what works for them. So I think that's just hearing you speak is kind of like you need to gain as much knowledge around different things. Like it's not just this area of nutrition. It's around the psychology. It's around, what they're doing in their life. So there's a lot of different things to it. It's not just a case of eat this many calories or eat this much protein. There's a lot of things to it, which is why, you like you say, you collaborate with other people as well, right? So you don't work by yourself. So just before Kyle asks the next question, what does that look like for you collaborating with other people that you work with?
Yeah, so you're talking about every athlete can be a little differently. Like they don't want to eat before they train. So let's say we have an 8 o'clock workout. They're like, I'm not eating. I don't like food on my stomach. So it's definitely going through and like, hey, there's 3 of us on staff, which is absolutely amazing, but it's still not enough to be there and to be everywhere. So then you just have to sit there and you communicate to the strength conditioning coach or the athletic trainer, because there's always going to be someone on our sports performance staff in and around these athletes when stuff's going on. So we go through, and we actually have within our organization, we call pods. So there's always going to be someone on our wellness staff, a strength conditioning coach, and an athletic trainer that's going to be in charge of a position group. So for example, I'm in charge of our D-line from a wellness standpoint. And so we'll always have communication of what's going on with an athlete. So if I need help getting something implemented with a athletic trainer or a strength coach. So today we have a lift. Hey, I might be able to go tell the strength coach who's in charge of the D line something, he can help implement that one as well. And with that, we also kind of come up with common goals. And it might be like, hey, the number one focus on this guy might be he needs to shed fat, he needs to gain muscle, or he might just have to come back and, nurse himself from an injury. So we know what the main point for that athlete is. And so the communication around what we do between all three of us is the same thing. So we're always trying to talk daily around the pods just on the status of what every athlete that we're responsible for, so that it's always kind of there. And our organization, it's truly a unique situation. When I say it's very athlete focused, and it's just caring about the person. And so we're always talking what's going on from that aspect.
So you mentioned D-line. Now another reference for Wisconsin, J.J. Watt. Did you influence anything he ate, or was he gone by the time?
No, I was able to get, I'm trying to think now, we had 3 years together before he left to Arizona. And from there, considering that when I came in, was an intern and on there, JJ was actually very receptive and came in with a lot of questions. Like when you talk about a guy who is a professional at his craft and was looking at every aspect to even improve his game, even though when he was already, the defensive MVP and one of the biggest names within the NFL. So no, it was fun to kind of be around him. And I would say, if anything, maybe I learned more from him than he might have learned from me, but he was a great guy to have around. Rumors are maybe he'll come back. I don't know. There'll be a lot of excitement about that one. But time will tell. I learned in this profession, I just got to stick to my role as a dietitian in the wellness staff and stop trying to predict those type of things until it happens.
That's right. We're going to leave with that. You heard it here first. J.J. Watt's coming back to Houston, people.
I'm just going by the headlines I see in the news, just every single one of you. So
great.
Yeah.
So you played at NAIA, at Peru State College,
yes.
The Bobcats, the mighty Bobcats.
The Bobcats, yes.
I did look up that Devin Adams. He's got a call to the rookie minicamp at the Patriots. He was a linebacker last year, I guess. So there's hope.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. Peru State's making an impact. They're global now.
Yeah, that's great. So, I'm excited about that.
As you played and as you work with coaches now, what have you learned from other coaches and other staff that's helped you with what you're doing? From the beginning to your current stage right now.
A lot of it is just how to handle different athletes. When you kind of go in there, I'm sure that every coach can attest to you, if they have a group of 10 athletes that they might deal with, all 10 of them probably have some sort of different personality, and how can you get your message across? And that is still an area that I try to learn just because I'm trying to get compliance with all the athletes that I work with. So it's going down and going at that psychological level, like how do I get this across to an athlete in order for the biggest impact? Because realistically with my job, yes, I'm trying to give advice, but I need someone else in order to act. And it's getting them to kind of go around within that one. Yeah, I would say that is definitely the biggest part. I've been around some phenomenal coaches that just know how to handle a room and get guys going on the same page, definitely. And that part has made a giant impact for me.
Mm. Fantastic. I mean, you mentioned learning from J.J. Watt, and I can imagine you've learned from it a load of coaches, right? And a load of players. And I actually love what you said at the beginning about that routine and that consistency as being really key. But is anything specific you can give us? I always watch, like I said, those all or nothings, and I'm always listening for kind of coaching stuff that I can implement in my own coaching. Because I find it fascinating how a kind of a head coach can basically can look after, you're talking hundreds of people. You've got players, you've got staff. This is a massive role to do that with all those different personalities and characters and egos and all this kind of thing. But is there anything specific, any advice that you've been impacted by personally that you kind of have applied to what you do now?
Yeah, it's always observe and anticipate and kind of go from there. So always keeping like that eye open, because the next thing you know, if you're starting to notice one thing, you can be ahead of the game in order to help an athlete here or there, or kind of show that you can care a little bit more. So if an athlete comes in the morning and I've noticed that, 2 days in a row they like to have a smoothie, for their breakfast. Hey, I've noticed that, I can automatically give it to you. Or this guy looks like he's sweating a lot today because it's Houston, it's hot and humid. Hey, I got this extra electrolyte drink. So it's always just kind of looking and kind of go from there. And once they see that part, athletes, like, they love it. And some of the feedback we get from a lot of athletes that come from different organizations, they're like, you guys are just around and help a lot versus the other ones. And that feedback is the one that kind of that hits the soul for me. When I hear that and I look at the other people on staff with us, and that's also the same feedback that the athletic trainers have. Like, they're like, I've never been able just to go in there and get personal treatment like I do. I've always had to go somewhere else. But the same thing with them. They notice someone might be moving slightly different or this or that. And the observing and then being able to react from that is definitely helped out a lot.
Yeah, that's big. That's good advice, because I think that's things we tend to share is to look at others. If you want to emulate someone, follow them closely. If there's anything good that they can share and learn from. Just to give you a disclaimer, Ben and I went to Houston Roughnecks game about 4 weeks ago. I think it's the only game they won. Did they lose?
No, they won.
They won. Yeah, the only game they won apparently all season. So.
Were you in Houston for that one?
Yeah, we were there. We were doing some. Yeah, so we saw the game, and I had to explain a few rules to Ben, because he kept looking at the guys in the stripes, thinking that was his Newcastle United players from soccer, and it wasn't. So.
We've done a joking series around me pretending to be Ned Tasso around this side, like the reverse of Ted Lasso around American football.
Yep.
So I do know most of the rules. I'm still learning, but not compared to you guys that have grown up with it and stuff. So I love watching the Red Zone on a Sunday night over here and stuff. It's obviously over there. So yeah, but I'm always learning, and I love learning from you as well, right? So yeah, this has been great.
Perfect. So is there any sports ministry or nutrition tool that you could that others could use, like something very general in the sense that we can that you would see us maybe implementing? I'm over West Africa and Southeast Asia, something that doesn't require large amounts of money or sourcing it from labs in China or anything like that.
I would say just like basic stuff is, I think everything I've talked a lot about, this one is just going down into the person. I wouldn't necessarily get down into like the weeds of all like the calories or anything like that, but I think going at it in those situations, I would go with some of the biggest things is just hydration can be one of the most important. I just actually did a little presentation, and hydration is going to be the biggest thing that can decrease, or the quickest thing that can decrease your performance in practice or a game from a nutritional one. So if you go into something dehydrated or underfed, that dehydration is going to get you a lot quicker. So look at that one. And then just kind of helping to rehydrate. So those people, if they have access to a scale, I would say just see how much you lost in your sweat. Make sure you're getting that one back. So if you lose 2 pounds or a kilo, make sure you're getting that back in fluid weight from there. And then in those hotter environments, just making sure you're getting something with electrolytes. And so that could be as easy as just taking table salt and adding that into your water, or just using more soy sauce or something like that on your food. I love Asian food, so that's an easy one for me. So those are kind of some of the bigger ones. I would definitely focus a lot on making sure your athletes are hydrated. I don't think people realize the physiological and psychological effect that might have on somebody, especially in today's society.
So good. I mean, you just talked about there, sleep, the importance of drinking water, the importance of just like strength conditioning and moving your body, the importance of routine and that kind of thing. I mean, these are the basic things that you said. You can go into a lot more detail. And I love, obviously, having this conversation, you can go into a lot more depth as well. And I think just from hearing you, I'm kind of inspired to learn more, because you're talking about as you've been going on a journey, you've been a learner, you've been hungry to learn, and that you still want to continue to learn more, even though you're in a high performing environment. So you've inspired me to do that. I know you said you don't
drink coffee too, Ben.
There's the coffee. There you go. The coffee. There we go. So I know you said you don't do predictions. We know you've had a rebuild, the Houston Texans, and we know that. But from being in Houston, there is a lot of positivity around where you guys are going to go. I know last year lost to the Baltimore Ravens, but they were a good side. But you did considerably better than you did before. Where do you see kind of the next season going? I mean, another big prediction here, another exclusive maybe coming. But give us the kind of thought around what do you think it's going to look like next year?
Yeah, our athletes they're working hard right now, and we have a lot of these guys in, and they're putting it in there. I think definitely making the playoffs again and going out there and winning our division. So AFC South champions is definitely going to be something that is realistic for us and something that we can and kind of go out there. So I think for us, that's the first thing that needs to be done is make the playoffs. That's how you make the bigger push to the Super Bowl. But I think we definitely have the squad to go out there and definitely repeat that one. Tougher schedule this year with the way that the NFL does their schedule. I think I saw something. We might have the 4th or 5th hardest schedule in the NFL. So it's one of those things that I think, but we can go out there and do a lot in order to go out there and win that division.
All I heard was Super Bowl. That's all I heard.
If I think when you're in this point right now, every team should be having that strive and goal to go out there. But people are expecting it. I mean, I've seen like the little rankings and things like that they have for us, and being in like the top 6 or 5. So there's some of that expectation there too. But I think without a doubt, I'm really confident that we're gonna go out there and at least get this divisional championship. And each one of those games, man, they're tough. There's only a few things I know. 5 or 6 plays out of all those plays against Baltimore, we might win that game too. So it's when you get down to it, those games are very, very, very close, and you better be ready.
So good. Honestly, thank you so much for your time. If anyone wanted to follow you personally, where would they kind of do that on different places? Any platforms or socials you want to promote, or anything else you want to promote just to finish off?
Oh man, I don't do a whole lot on social media. I know this is religious based. I do go to, if you're in Houston, and go to West End. I've been trying to do more stuff there on campus. Because I also would probably just say like the men's retreat I did there was phenomenal. So I'm starting to get more people around there, but otherwise I don't do a whole lot when it kind of comes to social media, unfortunately.
No, that's good.
No problem.
Maybe that's a well-being tip right there. Don't go on social media. There's extra tips flying out. No, honestly, Jacob, just whatever happens this year, Super Bowl or no Super Bowl, or whether it, whatever happens, remember the fact that you've already won. And I'm so grateful that you've given us the time. You've given us some really good practical insight and load of wisdom, which you've carried there, which is brilliant. So yeah, thank you so much. And remember, you've already won, and remember that great game that's going on. So we'll continue to just pray for you as you're in that high performing environment, and it's so good to hear from you. So we appreciate your time.
Thanks, guys. And then let me know the next time if you're in Houston for anything. You got to make sure you let me know so we can go out.
Well, yeah,
for sure. We had a whistle-stop tour, so we just went outside the Astros Stadium. Then it was Dynamo, and then it was just literally, roughnecks and out. So next time I want to come during NFL season for sure, and come and see what the hype's around.
Perfect. Well, the schedule gets released today, so keep an eye out on that so you know when to come visit.
You're not doing any overseas games this year, are you? You're not going?
We are not. So no, they just announced that I think this morning. So we are not doing any of those. So.
Well, if you're ever in London, I'm like half an hour from London, so I know it's obviously half an hour from London, so we'd love to if you ever in London, connect with you and stuff. And I know there's loads of other places that the NFL is trying to expand to, even in West Africa, right, Carl? There's a big push around there as
Ghana's
well.
Ghana's a big push. The Eagles are pushing Ghana hard. Watch out.
Are they really? Okay.
Yeah. So we're actually doing some stuff, trying to do some stuff with them. Not the Eagles, but in Ghana with football. Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. I did. One of my experiences when I was at IMG helping out with combine prep, I actually worked with the NFL pathway. And that's been one of the funnest things I've done in my career in working with those athletes. So we had Australia, London, Nigeria, and things like that. And then the last few years, we had an NFL pathway athlete on our team for a few years too. So it's fun to learn from those. We even have an active roster guy from South Africa. So he went to high school there and then moved over at a later age. So
Yeah.
I love the international part of it. It's amazing for sports. And I think every league across the board just needs to keep expanding out and getting more of that international base.
Make it global.
For sure. Well, go and enjoy practice. I know you're out on the field in an hour's time, so yeah,
Yep.
go and enjoy the rest of the day and enjoy the rest of the coffee. I hope it sustains you for the rest of the day.
Got Ben,
All
Kyle, thank you for having me on.
Thanks, Jacob. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Bye, guys.
Good stuff, man.
Great stuff. Very educational this week, right, Mad Dog? Very educational.
Coffee.
Has it got electrolytes in it?
This one doesn't, but I do have coffee with electrolytes in it. I showed you that?
What about soy sauce? I don't know about soy sauce. He did say add some soy sauce.
I'm not putting soy sauce in my coffee. Maybe in my tea.
There you go. I'll put it in my tea. See what happens, eh? No, there's some really good stuff there, like really practical stuff in it. Thing I liked a lot was him actually talking about that thing about observation and actually him kind of being able to stand back and then observe. And he talks about this like athlete-centered approach. And I think in my coaching journey, when I started coaching, I wanted to be in there. I wanted to be coaching. I wanted to be sharing stuff. But actually, as I've got older and had more experience in it, I've kind of sat back and actually did what he said there to observe, and also being a Christian coach about seeing where God's at work and then speaking after I observe. So that was really powerful for me, that reminder around observation. And I can imagine him, he works in a team of 3, I think he said. Those guys are constantly observing what these guys are doing. So, yeah, really good. What about you, Mad Dog? Any learnings from you?
Yeah, no, I to continue with the coaching thing, I think that's, you grow up as a player or you emulate your coach, because that's what you've been beaten into sometimes. If a coach is very aggressive and boisterous, we get these sort of wrong approaches, and we kind of have to unlearn or unthink those kind of things and change it. So taking that advice of just observing someone that you think is a good coach can get players to do things and can motivate them in certain ways is a great advice. But also, just basic things of hydration. At the end there, he's talked about water, just make sure, we can do the calculations. Yeah. But just having water available. I know that there's been a shift here that the punishment will, unless you made 10 free throws or tackled, cleanly, you're not gonna have a water break, or, the coaching staff would punish teams for not for something and would hold back water. But we know that's not very wise. So, having something like that and just basic advice of keeping hydrated, making sure, because it does affect your performance. It affects your mental health. It all these things. It affects you.
Yeah, he talks about loads there. If I'm just thinking about 4 pillars that he talked about sleep, he talked about hydration, he talks about movement, strength and conditioning. And the other one probably, I guess, would be around that routine and consistency. 4 pillars, Mad Dog, that we got those on there. What about our sports friends coaches? Do we have one of our coaches who can talk around something around this?
I certainly do. We just had a coaches retreat in Nigeria, and we're going to hear someone share on nutrition or hydration.
Once again, I'm Joseph Kimkwat Monday, a member of Equa Gospel 2. What we do during our clinics is that we encourage our team members to come with water, because dehydration is one of the key things, and because we're involved in sports, it involves a lot of energy, and we encourage them to come with water. But instances where others don't, we also provide. And in situations whereby we invite other teams to be part of us, we also provide water for them during some of these events. I pray that we'll continue to encourage each other in a way that we can, no matter how little and no matter how big. Thank you.
And Mad Dog, that was great. Well, look, today we had lots of wisdom drop from Jacob, but let's finish with some weekly Wellman words. Now, look, this is a quote. The greatest wealth is health. Hey, your greatest wealth is health. And how about this, Cal? In our modern day world, right, a lot of young people often sacrifice their health for wealth. But actually, when you get to the end of life, a lot of people would do anything to swap their wealth for one day of good health. Isn't that funny how it's kind of like we always flip it so much, and there's sometimes a sacrifice that comes. But your wealth is your health. And I think just listening to Jacob there about well-being, he talks around, sports performance and optimizing that. We said the 4 pillars. I'm sure there's more things you could have picked out there. But I think for me, this is important of a balance and really important around thinking about some of these things that can really improve your well-being in a holistic way, right? That's some wisdom from Jacob. And your health is your wealth, Mad Dog. Get that on a t-shirt.
Health is your wealth. That's right. Bam.
that shirt behind you, the Mad Dog one. I need that on there. Health is your wealth.
Gotta get the Wildcat to you.
There you go. As soon as I do, I tell you what, we'll be putting that on Series 3.
That's
We're going to be putting it on, right?
Playing some money pot.
There you go. We're not going to be doing that. No, we loved it. No, I love that today, Mad Dog. Thank you so much for your time, guys, for listening. And don't forget to do what?
Tell your friends. You know what? Friends. Tell your friends. Tell your parents, too. Your parents' friends. Just tell everybody.
Thanks again for joining us on Already Won, a Sports Friends podcast. Please like, share, and subscribe on your favorite streaming platform.